Good day, everyone. Welcome to Friday Fundamentals for July 27th, 2018. My name is Brent Hindman, and I will be your presenter today. Today's topic that we're going to cover is deck design. If someone could just shoot me a quick chat just to say that you can hear me fine and you can see my screen, that'd be great. I don't need everyone to, but if someone could, that'd be great. So just a little bit of background on what we're going to cover today. Being that it is the middle of a nice hot summer, I thought that it was fitting that we do a cottage type deck design with a screened eating area and a large deck. What you're gonna see is a design that I did. I think it's about 3 years ago now. It was built about 2 years ago, and it's for a family member. And I've just basically stripped it down. And I'm just going to erase what I have here, and you'll be able to see what it looks like. So basically, it's a prow front cottage with an upper loft here. When we go into, say, 3D, that's what it will look like, similar to that when we're all done. This is a drawing that has already been worked through. So we're going to work on putting together a screened room over here. The existing decks are on either side flanking the main living area, and we are going to build it's a rather large deck, an eating area here. If we have time, we're going to bump out the roof on the back end for a cooking spot. It's not exactly to the way it's built because it is built on quite a hill. I do have a bit of a grade there just so we can take a look at where we put our piers in underneath the deck, and you can see how you can move them up and down according to the grade. And adjust the post heights to fit under the beams that are placed there. So this is just something that we're gonna work through. We're gonna get as far as we can in the 45 minutes to an hour that we have today, and see what we can accomplish. So without further ado, I'm going to take us back to the starting point drawing, which is exactly the way it was when we first approached this. It only had the two porches off either side, and it was in need of a larger outdoor living space. So what we are going to start with is I'm going to take you through some of the basic commands that are resident to the deck commands. The nice thing about the deck commands is that they are fairly contained within one menu. So when I go to draw and I click on deck, you're going to notice a number of options here. We're going to start with the deck command at the top, which gives us all of the pieces that we need to create the actual platform. So the ring joist, the joist, and the decking all is one. With soft plan, you're going to notice that we use what we call polygons quite often. The deck is generated as a polygon. So it's a shape that's flexible. You can move its shape around, you can break the edges and stretch them and do whatever you need to. You can chamfer corners, curve corners, deflect edges. They're very robust entities, much like you would use in any of the site commands when you're doing a driveway, sidewalk, site polygon, that sort of stuff. So the deck is much akin to that, and it's also a close cousin to the floor systems. So the nice thing about when you draw with the deck pull down, the menus for the decks, is that they are individual to decks. So when I draw a deck beam, as we're going to see shortly, it actually knows enough to look for the underside of the deck and find its proper position under it. Whereas if I was to draw a regular beam from the draw beam commands, that's going to look for a wall to connect to. Otherwise, it's just going to sit at 0 as an offset. So just to go through these really quickly, when we draw a deck, I'm just going to draw one really quickly here. So when I just draw four sides and connect them back up, you can see that it generates a deck with the joist, the hangers, the ring joist, and the decking. Okay, this is probably a good spot to go through and take a look at what some of these different pieces are on the deck. So you can see the small slats going across. Those are your actual decking boards. You'll also notice that we have circular reference points, which a lot of you have been using SoftPlan for a number of years. You would understand that reference points when you're in a floor system or on a slab or on a roof, a number of spots that we use them, they indicate what we reference to. So moving those around, or adjusting them, I should say, when you click on them to adjust them, you can move them to find different spots. So that is the edge reference point. And that allows me to adjust an edge this way, or I can adjust the reference point to find a wall so that it will find that wall and clean up to its edge so that the deck properly locates to a wall. Okay, but you'll also notice we have some triangle reference points here. And you're going to notice me do this a lot when I'm drawing. I'm going to try to go to the draw menus quite a bit, but if I go to edit right now and I click on this, I really don't know what I'm going to get, right? I'm going to get the deck in general, but if this was a bunch of entities and I exploded it so that it was individual pieces such as the deck boards and the joists and the ring joists, I have a lot of entities laying on top of each other and it becomes hard to differentiate one from another. So what you do then, just from a blank slate, is right click on that area and it'll ask you what you want to edit. Okay, so if I was to come in here and explode this, so now I have literally, if I right click on here, so I have the deck surface and I also found the joist in that area. If I was to be over here and I right click, I'm going to get the joist, the ring joist, and the deck surface. So it allows me to pick one of those and then pick the command that I want to follow up with on that particular command. So it's a locating tool. I stress that you will want to use this. When you're in floor system modes, it's very useful. Even more so when we're in decks, because in decks we are going to be drawing some beams. We're going to try and draw a screen house or screen room, that sort of stuff. That's all drawn over top of the deck. So if I'm clicking edit, it's a bit of a free-for-all which one I'm going to get depending on where my cursor is located. But if I right-click on the entity, that's going to pull up this menu. It's going to say, which one do you want? One of these three, okay? And you can pick on it. You can limit that by clicking right on an item, in which case it still finds the deck surface and the joist, but then I can select which one I want from there, okay? Likewise, if I click on an edge, so if I click over here, I can go to the joist, and then I can click on edit edge. And on that edit edge command, so there's editing the entire joist set, then there's an edit for that particular joist set. And at that point, you can see that we have already set this one to reference to that edge. But if I wanted the joist to reference to this edge, I can go to joist, pick edit edge, and then I can click on the reference side, at which point my joists are going to start spacing from this side and space across to the other side. So of course that doesn't work out well with our decking. It's going to be a little springy, but at that point then I could click on this side and I go to the deck surface, click edit edge, and then say reference this side to there. So now I've just reversed the joist and the decking to the opposite directions. So just remember that when you're trying to change the reference edge, don't go to the edge that it is referencing now, which is the one with the triangle. Go to the one that you want it to be referenced to, at which point you can check the reference side option up here. But if you click on the one that's already referenced, it's going to be grayed out because it's already been selected. What you need to do is click another one. That will turn this one off automatically and set it to the one that you edited. So that's just something to remember. Very important when you're drawing your decks. We're going to automatically try and run the joist across the shortest distance, which is just that's just common sense, but that's not necessarily the way you're going to want it, because maybe you want to split it into multiple pieces, that sort of stuff, that sort of thing. So as we've drawn this as a large polygon, of course, we're running the joist all the way across, and we're running the decking all the way down. You can then explode it. You can reduce the sizes of those different sections. You can reduce the size of the joist as you need to. But for today's purposes, we're going to draw one very large deck, and we're going to draw some intermediate beams and that sort of stuff through it. But we are going to use the deck polygon to do so. So this is just a quick intro into that. Now, under the Draw Deck menu, you'll also see deck components. So if I only wanted to draw one of those three pieces, whether it's the surface, the decking, the ring joist, which is the joist going around the outside edge, or the actual joists that are spanning and spaced across the opening, I can check those and I can draw them individually, much like in floor system mode. So this is just a different way of breaking it down. So if I only want to draw the decking surface, I can do so here. So if I've broken my deck into two parts and I have like a herringbone design on the slope of the decking, then I can do it there. That is something you can do. I'm just going to cancel out of that. If I was to right click on this deck surface, pick the edit edge, I can also change this to say a 45, at which point from this edge, it's running at 45 degrees and going that way. Okay. So Next item on here is single deck joist. So if you want to draw any single deck joists in, you can just click them and drop them in. You can also go to sister deck joist. So I can click here and I can click on one and then draw to the other, click to the side that I want that one to double up to, and it automatically draws a joist next to it. I can draw parting boards in. I can choose different patterns if I want to, depending on whether I want to do a 3-point arc. So if I wanted to arc across here, I can do a 3-point. That'd be the end points and then the, I guess, the top of the arc. So if I wanted to pick that one, I would click here, here, and actually I would go here, here, and there, and that would get that one in. All right. That will break the actual decking and run this board in there. I'm just going to undo that, and then I can do start end radius. So that's what I was thinking of. A start end radius parting board would simply be click your start point, click your end point, and then deflect it out to where you want it to be. And then you, without drawing it, you got to start center and length. So you start with the end point, the center, and then stretch it around. All right. You can also do deck edges, and you can do straight parting boards, which we will do a little bit later. So with the deck edges, you just simply click on the edge. Our locate tolerance is quite wide, so you can just click near the edge and it will automatically put that parting board around the edge for you. All right. We have deck benches. We will try to get to drawing one later today. So I click the ends and then I click to the side that I want to draw, and then it allows me to continue drawing around from that point. We have beams. We're going to draw beams very shortly, so I won't take the time to do that. We can draw posts that will come in underneath our beams. We have stairs that will automatically connect to the decks. We are going to draw some of those very shortly as well. And then railings, and there's different ways of drawing your railings in. This is to trace one in. There's also an auto railing option right below that, which will automatically place the deck railing on for you as soon as you click on the deck. So we've just contained the entire deck by doing that. All right. You can put in a rectangular framed opening just like you would in a floor system mode. And then you can also do a non-rectangular framed opening, which will require you to put your joist in and frame it out accordingly the way you need to. Okay. And then there's the level option there as well, which allows you to set different level decks and differentiate one from another, which is very common with your floor systems as well. It's basically a naming convention for your different dropped floors or elevated floors. All right, but let's erase what we have here. I'm just going to do a block erase to get rid of all of it. I'm going to zoom back out, and we're going to start tracing in our deck. So we're going to have a deck that comes across, and then it's going to project out on the left side slightly. So to do that, I'm going to go to the deck command. I'm going to pick on deck, which will draw everything for me. Occasionally, you're going to see me use the snap commands as well, which are the fourth icon up here. Also F11 on your keyboard, which allows you to snap to different points. So if I turn it on, you'll see it highlighted in that orangey yellow color, and you'll see projection snaps show up. If you don't like projection snaps, you can turn them off in system options, but we do encourage you to try and get used to using them. What they do is they look for points on an item adjacent to what you're drawing, which will, maybe help me to align with, say, that corner when I'm drawing from here. You can see it dotted in, and it helps me to align with that edge. But if I want to actually connect to that edge directly, I'm going to wait for the big square, which indicates an intersection there, and I'm going to start drawing. And I'm going to use my tape measure at the top to get about 14 feet out on this. So I'm just going to go roughly 14 feet. I'm going to click my left mouse button. I'm going to zoom up a bit, zoom out a bit, and move across to the left, and I'm going to go roughly 80 feet. I'm close there. And I'm going to go up about 24 feet. Should take us back onto that wall a little bit. And if I want to have more accuracy, I can at any time zoom in. That little symbol that you see there means perpendicular to that wall. So it's going to click perpendicular to that wall. It's going to click out to the corner. Now, if I don't have the snap-on, it does find walls quite well, and you can also adjust at any time if you need to. Now you'll notice that I have a prow on the front. It's a 15-degree prow wall coming out there, and I need to follow that. So hitting the F12 key while I'm drawing is an easy way of unlocking the cursor, which is your third icon off the left-hand side on your toolbar. And that allows me to snap to there, and snap back to my start point. And when I hit the start point, it knows that I've closed the polygon in, and it will then draw in my my decking and my joist and my ring joist. So now I have the polygon drawn the way I want it. I'm going to likely pull some dimensions at this point just to get a little bit more accuracy. So what we like to do is I tend to use the item extension. You can use group extension, that sort of thing. But pulling an item extension off will pull off the two edges of whatever item it is you're clicking on. Saves you having to pick every corner. But that'll help me to pull just the dimensions that I need to get this set up. And then we're going to run dimensions through those. So I'm going to cross the wall, cross the extension, cross the two extensions, cross these ones, and then cross these ones. And I'm going to use the Control Q command, which is the same as going to your dimensions and using enlarge dimension numbers. I'm going to then edit this, and I'm going to make it 14 feet even. So I'm going to add some accuracy. Remember, when we draw with soft plan, we like to sketch first, edit later. That's where the speed comes in soft plan. You're replacing the onion skin and the graph paper with your drawing screen, and it's the same drawing you get to take all the way to completion of working drawings, 3Ds, and material takeoffs. So you don't have to redo all that work again that you just took the time to sketch out rough. Start rough, get it as close as you can with just eyeballing it, and then come back in and edit those dimensions. So we're going to make this 14 feet. And I'm going to hit the down arrow, which will move the lower point on the deck. I don't want to move the upper point. And this one here, first thing we can do, we could check to make sure that we are aligned the way we want to, and we're aligned perfectly here. We found that point perfectly, so we're good to go. And I'm going to edit this and make it 80 feet. Boy, I was really close there. And here we're going to click on this one and make it 24 feet. And of course, I'm going to hit the up arrow because I've already set the front edge where I want it. Now I'm moving the back edge of that deck to where I want it to be. And this one will be whatever's left over. All right. I've already set the front and I've aligned it on the right-hand side. So 18 feet plus or minus is where we wanted to land with that. And we are pretty accurate on that with what we have. So with that done, I'm going to zoom us back out. And let's take a really quick look at our 3D. Going to up to our, I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to drag the drawing that we're working on. Be patient, right now we're kind of missing our main floor right now. So I'm going to find this one and drop it in to there. And it landed in the right spot. So now you can see what we actually have that we're working with. And you can see that the deck is also sitting a little bit high. It's sitting level with the existing porches that are there. And I want to drop it down a little bit. So remember, you can always edit things in 3D, use the edit command. You can come right in here and I can set that offset down. I'm going to set it down 15 inches, which will drop it down. If you hit the down button, it will go down. There we go. All right, so you set your offsets. Now relative to the main floor where we've drawn this, the bottom of this deck is 15 inches down. So it's 15 inches, then we add 9.5-inch joists and 1.25-inch decking. So the top of this deck is about 4.25 inches down from zero, which is the top of the foundation here. So you can see about a 4.25-inch gap that we can still see foundation before we get to where the sill plate would sit to move up from there on the main floor. So that allows us room to put a small stair around this area and one across the front of that one over there, and just gives a little bit of a break. And it also brings the floor level down a little bit, so we a little bit closer to the ground when we actually do need to build our stairs. All right. So I'm going to go back to our actual drawing that we were working on, and we're going to take a look at drawing some beams in underneath this, that sort of thing. Okay, I got a question. Why 9.5-inch joist? That's just the predefined joist depth that we put in. You can set it to what you want. All of our joists are set to 2x10 is drawn at 9.5 inches. That's the way the setup is. If you do put it in at 9.25, it is just a system option that you can change. I assume I'm answering your question, Don. It's just the way when we set up our system options, you can go in, you can set up your default dimensions on your lumber for the decking and so on, and that's just the size that was defined in the system options as we ship the software. So easily modifiable if that's something you'd like to do. All right, the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go back to deck, and we're going to go to beam. And I'm just going to pick one out of the list here. I'm going to go with a 2x10 pressure treated beam, and I'm going to pick OK. Here again, if I wanted to be accurate, I can have it draw right down the front, and it's going to stick out the front a bit, but it would allow me to then zoom it up, and then I can just simply move it back in underneath. I can also push it back 2 feet and cantilever out if that's what I wish to do. For today, I'm just going to push it back in so the face of it is in line with the probably with the joist or with the ring joist. All right. So in here, if I right click, you can see I'm already getting the deck and I'm getting the beam, and then I can pick the move command and I can easily just move it back up to where I want it to be. And if I use the arrow keys, remember when you're using the arrow keys, you will move 1/8 of an inch at a time, which allows you to be more accurate and place the item exactly where you want it to be. All right. So when we go back into our 3D, we should now see that we actually have a beam showing there. And when you're editing the beams, we're going to take a look at this a little bit later as well, but I can edit the beam, and on the ends, you can actually set up profiles, and there's a number of different profiles you can set up on these. So you can make your beams more decorative, but underneath there, if we just wanted to chamfer off the bottom edge, you can set that up here, and it'll automatically reflect that right on the drawing for you, okay? Actually, I didn't put in a 2x10, I put in just a 2x10. I wanted a 2x10. So I'm going to go back in, and it's still okay. So it's lined up with the outside face, but I can also pick that up and I can drag it back to where I want it. If I wanted it back there or there, it's easily maneuverable. Okay. Now, to add posts in here, I'm going to add the posts to the first beam. Then I can do a copy and I can move them, make a copy to move them back. It saves me drawing them twice. So what we can do is go to deck, and if you go to post in here, you're going to go to the structural ones most likely. Let's say we want to put in 6x6 pressure treated post. It's going to have a sonotube on the bottom of it, and you pick OK, and you can just locate that beam. So I can locate it right on top of it, wherever I'd like to put those, click, and then click again to place it. All right. So when you're back in your 3D, we're going to be referring to the 3D quite often. You can see that it doesn't know where it should be just yet, but I can then edit that post, and I can set it, say, down, I think about 7 feet. So if I go to my common tab and I can say, let's move it down 7 feet, that's better, but I could probably move it down a little bit more, 7 foot 6 inches, drop it down. And then back on the post tab, there's an option in here for adjust height to fit to the beam, and that will actually chop the wood portion of that beam off to fit up underneath there. Okay, so just by doing that, that's gotten the first one ready, and then I can come back to my drawing, and I can copy that across the entire length of the beam. So there's different ways to do this as well. Obviously, you can just sketch them in. You can edit the dimensions between them and set them up accordingly. You can copy them across at a specific distance, but you can also find the post, go to the copy command, take the other one and drop it well over to this side, and then you can say, I want to put in, let's say, we're not doing anything structurally accurate today. We're just going to be drawing them so you can see how you can move them around. And I'm going to put 7 across here, and I'm going to say equally spaced between the start point and the other point, and pick OK. And by doing that, that will place them all the way across there and it tells you the spacing as you put those in. Okay, and now we can go to move, and I'm going to do a copy block, and I'm going to window this whole area, and I'm going to drag it back to there. And if I wanted to move it an exact distance, I can do that as well. So I could come in here and I could say, let's make it 7 feet. And I'm only going to make one copy, and that will place it at 7 feet back. All right. I can also do a copy block of that, and I could drag it to here if I wanted to. Then I'd have to go back in and erase all my posts. So that's another way of doing it. I could also just pick up the posts and move those over on this side and then adjust their positions as necessary. Okay, so for now, what we're going to do is I'm just going to do a copy of this. I'm going to move it to here, and I'm going to say OK. I'm going to erase the post that I don't want in this area, and then I can do a move block and move that one back, just so that I don't have to try and erase the posts once they're in the house area. So I can do that, and I can also copy these ones and do a draw select. So I'm just going to show you a different way of drawing those in. First thing we're going to do, though, is adjust this beam back shorter. So anywhere on this side of it, I can drop it back in. You can zoom in. You can use your snaps if you need to find a point, that kind of thing. And then you can also do a move copy, like a copy block of this smaller beam in this area and move that, but I'm going to pick up that post by doing that. But if I'm more selective, I might be able to grab the beam and move it back to here as well. All right, I'm only going to do one of those. If there's anything you ever want to draw, you can also right click on this, go to the beam, and then use the draw select, which would allow me to then draw that beam anywhere I want to. Also found up under draw select, but then I'd have to go and find the item. But if I right click on the item, it'll automatically locate it for me, and helps quite a bit with accuracy at that point. So back in the 3D, you're going to notice that our posts they're going to disappear up here. At any time when you're in here, you can just pick these items up. You can drag them down till they're above grade, whatever you need to do. These ones we're going to make shorter, but the only other thing you'd need to do is edit those, click on them, uncheck the adjust height to beam, and then recheck it, and that will automatically readjust those to find their new location. I'm not going to spend time to do all of them, but for instance, if we wanted to edit these ones over here, I'm likely to change the offset on these ones to a smaller distance because it doesn't need to go as far in because the grade goes up. So if I should change that to 7 feet and the concrete comes up, then I simply go back to post and adjust the height. And it's going to shorten up the wooden portion of it. Okay, so without doing all of them, this gives you an idea of how you can adjust those and how would you create the deck if you want the beam to function as your rim board. I think you could double up the rim board. That'd probably be your best bet. Otherwise, you can set your beam up. You can change your offsets on these. Right now, it's just finding that point, but I can push it up if I need to. So if I'm in my deck beam options and I come in here, it's telling me the offset of it, but I can push that up to where I want it to be. So I could push it up the 9.5 inches to where I need it to go. All right. Automatically, it tries to support the joist directly, but that's not to say you can't hang your joist off of the beam. Okay, so sorry, wrong drawing. We're going to go over to this one. And that just gives you an idea of how you can get your beams in place and so on. A single extension pulled off of these will also allow us to position them exactly the way we want to, and no different than when you're drawing in your program. All right. Likewise, you can pull all your beam locations off. Get the object snap turned off there so it's not flashing the screen on you. And the next thing we're going to draw now is draw some stairs around the existing porch. And the way we're going to draw this first one is we're going to use the deck stairs, and we're going to sketch. And when you go to sketch, you're going to have the options for straight, curved, angled, fold back, flared, and wrap around. And the wraparounds are really added mostly for decks. So I'm going to click along the edge, and then I'm going to click my left mouse button for that corner. Then I'm going to click to the side that I want the stair to actually draw to, and then it's going to allow me to continue all the way around to here. And when I'm all done, I right click and it's finished. Now, the coolest part of this is that when I edit this stair, it already knows that its stair rise is 1 foot. That's the difference between the existing porch and the actual top of the new deck that we've just drawn. So we are already there. We just need to, let's say I want to reduce the number of risers, because with 4 risers, it's a really small rise on those risers. So I could actually get down to just 2, but I've done 3 here. And when we take a look at the 3D, you'll see the deck stairs already drawn in this area. All right, so that's all there is to it. If you're having trouble getting them to sit where you want them to, when you're editing these stairs, you can simply come in, and in the stair options, the reference end right now is bottom, so it's sitting on the deck. Quite often when you're drawing your stairs going up to your deck, you're going to want to change that to top so that it knows where the deck is and it runs down from there. Okay, so that's just something you can we'll take a look at when we draw the front stair. Okay, another question came in. I'm going to ask you, I've got a lot of stuff to get through in the next 15 minutes, so I don't have a lot of time for individual questions. I will try and touch on them as we go, but quite honestly, the amount of content that I want to cover today is not going to allow me to answer the questions until maybe the end. So the next question that did come in, can you edit the right side to align with the window wall? I'm not sure what you meant by that. I can align the decking with the actual windows, like the prow wall. Absolutely. Yeah, I can have it, and then I could actually break the decking into 2 parts, putting a decking parting board down here. I'd have to draw the decking in as 2 separate pieces, one on the left, one on the right, and then I can make this my reference edge. So that if I was to come in here, which I can't see for my GoToMeeting dialog sitting in the way, but if I right click on here, I'm just going to drag that over. And if I edit that edge, and if I go to the deck edge, I can say reference that edge, in which case, actually I got the joist that time by accident, so sorry about that. Thought I was getting the deck, but yeah, I did the wrong one. So there we go. That'll allow us to slope them all the way across there. All right. And I'm just going to undo that change real quick. And the other question that did come in, change the direction of the joist decking 90 degrees. Do you draw the joist sections independently? No, you can simply, like I showed you on that smaller deck, that's where you can click on the edge that you want them to start spacing from. So if my joists are running vertically now, but I want them to run horizontally, I click on that edge where I want them to start spacing from. And that's where I say reference edge, and that's where they will start spacing from, is that edge, okay? You don't need to turn them necessarily. You literally edit the edge where you want them to start spacing from, okay? On the new steps, I could run them around the front, absolutely. Sorry, maybe Gary, you can follow up with me maybe after the class so I can get back to that. Right now, I want to finish drawing our stairs in and get our screened area drawn in. We've got a lot of stuff to cover right now. Thank you. We're going to go back to deck and stair and sketch, and I'm just going to do the wrap around across here just because it's fast and easy. And I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to edit that deck, and I'm going to change its, oh, sorry, I did click on the right. I want to edit the stair, and I want to change its riser count down to 3 as well. Pick OK, and there we go. All right, off the front of the deck, if you're going to draw a stair in, sorry, I keep going the wrong one there. I'm going to go to stair, and I'm going to go to sketch, and I'm going to do a straight. If you're going to do a straight, you simply draw across, and then you snap up to where you want it to go. Remember when you draw a stair, the circle at the bottom, typically at the bottom, references what it's referencing. So it's right now it's trying to sit on the ground probably. The little X at the top, the crosshair, indicates the top of the stair. So right now the top of the stair isn't referencing the deck, it's referencing to the bottom. So on this one in particular, I'm going to set its rise to about 3 feet. That's just kind of a guesstimate at this point. And I'm going to go into the stair options, and I'm going to say reference the top and pick OK, at which point the reference circle moved to the top and I reduced the size. And if I take a look at my 3D now, you'll see, I'm just going to slide us over there so we can see it. You can see that stair drawn in there, and we can come back into our drawing at that point, and I can adjust this longer, shorter, whatever I need to do to make it go where I want it. So I'm just going to roughly align it up with the edges of the living room area. All right. And when you're looking at your 3D, you can then see that that's where the stair is. And I have somehow inadvertently edited the offset of this when I was messing with that stair. And I'm in the deck, so this is 50. There we go, that's better. Okay, the next thing I want to take a look at is one way of drawing a screened in area. Now, I do realize that in reality, the posts actually had to come right through the deck. They are bearing on the bottom because it will have a roof on it and so on. For today, I'm just going to build this structure on top of the actual deck just to get us through it. Oops. I didn't mean to cancel out of that. I hadn't actually accepted the change yet. There we go. And now I'm just going to slide us over. So this is the area over here where we're going to actually draw in a screened in eating area. And what we're going to do to start with that is I'm going to draw some posts in. I'm going to draw some 6x6 posts. I'm going to upsize those to about 8x8s. And then I'm going to use a wall that I've defined. And there's also one in the actual shipped wall definitions that you can use that will suffice as well. The one that I've put in actually has like a framed in bottom area that has siding on it. So that's the only real difference. So what we're going to do to start with this is I'm going to go to draw. And in this case, I'm just going to go to post because I don't want it to go in underneath. I'm just going to go to structural. I'm going to go to a 6x6 pressure treated, and I'm going to pick OK. I'm going to start in here. And I'm going to move that to exactly where I want it. So I'm going to move it to there, and I'm going to move it to there. The Lebanon still. Sorry, it's jumping on me because I'm allowing it to find items I don't want it to find. There we go. And I'm going to edit that post, and its offset, it's going to be 4.25 inches down, and I do not want the pad under it. I just want just the post itself. And I'm also going to change it to an 8x8. And with the aspect ratio set here to maintain it, it'll automatically update the other. Sorry, I should have done that before I moved it into place. My oversight. So I'm getting the first one positioned so that when I copy this one, it'll go exactly where I want it to go. And I don't need to reposition the sizing or change the sizing and so on. So with that done, I'm going to do move, and I'm going to do a copy, and I'm going to click on that one. Oops. So there again, it's a good example of why you would want to use the right click option. Make sure I get the right one, and yeah, I can line it up over here. It's fine, and pick OK. And then we can do a move copy block, And if I'm careful and I don't contain the other posts in that, I should only get the posts that I have, at which point I can line those up here as well. And I'm just going to say 2 just to get them drawn. Pick OK. Now, what we're going to do next is, well, let's take a look at the 3D and see how we've made out. That looks pretty good. We've got the frame where we want it. What we're going to do next is, I didn't edit the height on these. I want to change their height down to, I think, 9 feet is the height of the wall. So I'm going to pick 9 feet. I'm going to pick OK. I'm going to do a repeat edit on the other posts just to get them down where they belong. There again, that would have been good to do on the first one just to get them ready. But now what we're going to do is we're going to draw in the walls in between. So I'm going to take it, it's just going to take a second here. I'm just going to do a save just to make sure that we don't lose what we have. And we're going to go back to our drawing, zoom it up a little bit closer. And we're going to go to Draw Wall. And I'm just going to quickly show you what we've put in here. So the 3.5-inch screened wall is one that is shipped with the program, and it works great. It allows you to draw in a screened room, and the screening goes all the way to the floor. I've just modified one. I've taken that one and I've put a framed wall underneath it, a small framed wall, so that you could put siding. It could be shakes. It could be stone veneer, something like that on it to dress it up a little bit. And in this case, I'm going to run it between the posts. And what it contains is a beam across the top of it, so I have a structural element to support the roof as well. So you could run the full rectangle and then plop the posts in. You could go without the posts. Unfortunately, there's nothing supporting the screening between the top of the wall and the top of the beam. So in this case, I'm putting posts in and just for that point. I'm going to pick OK on this. I'm going to use my F11, and I'm going to start by clicking on that post, and the little triangle indicates that you found the midpoint. So I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to zoom that out. I'm going to zoom back in on this one, and there again, I'm going to pick the triangle there, and then I'm going to click to the outside. All right. Now you'll notice that it drew off center. So if what I wanted to do was to get this to the center, I can edit that wall. And let's just take a look at the wall definition really quickly. Right now, the trace line position is the outermost bearing. So if I wanted to change anything about this, I might change that to center, in which case it's going to trace down the center. And just to take a quick look, you'll see that I have a bottom plate, I have siding there, 2 plates there, and then it's screening above with a beam at the top. Okay, that's all this wall is. Nothing too fancy. I'm just going to pick OK. And I'm going to erase the one that I have there. I'm going to show you what happens now when we trace this with it set to the center. So if we were to go to Draw Wall, pick it again, make sure that we're drawing it. And this time I pick here, and I zoom back in over here. Okay. Clicked incorrectly there, sorry about that. Click to the outside, and now we have our wall showing there. And you can see down in the preview in the bottom left corner that we have that wall drawn in, and we have the beam drawn in, which is, it's a 9-foot wall, so it should line up perfectly with our posts. In this case, I'm just butting them in. And what we're going to do next is I'm going to click here. I'm just going to keep going around. And I'm going to start there, go to there. And then just click on this one, across to there. Actually, I was okay there. I just didn't click the right post. As you can see, when you have multiple items on top of each other, it does become a little bit confusing. So that's why the right click for selections is useful. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury when we're doing something like this. And I'm going to pick there. And we're almost done here. Now, the other thing you'll notice is that what's happened in the corners is that these walls are actually joining right through the posts. Because the wall joint tolerance is such that 6 inches, and the distance between this point here and this point here is small enough that they're finding each other. So a tool that you can use to fix that is go to Tools, Reduce Wall Joint Tolerance. Now this is going to be typically when you have 3 walls coming into an intersection and they're not cleaning up the way you want them to. If you use Reduce Wall Joint Tolerance, you can simply just turn off my snaps. You click on those capsules that you see there, which point it's going to take it from a 6-inch wall joint down to a minimal wall joint. I forget what the exact number is. And then at that point, I can then adjust the walls back out of the intersections. I'm not going to do all of them, but you can see that now when I adjust them back out, they will stay where they're placed. Okay, so right now they're kind of running into the beam, into the post, but by adjusting them out after reducing the wall joint tolerance, they will stay put where they want. The wall joint tolerance basically is like a radar off the end of the wall. It looks for another wall to connect to, and if it finds one, they connect up. It's trying to be smart. In this case, we don't want it to, so you kind of have to dumb them down, make them a little bit more nearsighted so they can't see those posts or see the other wall on the other side of the post. All right, so let's take a quick look at our 3D. So there's our walls. I've got a stone veneer on the outside of it right now. That's just what I chose. And we can spin this around. We can come back in now and we can go to opening. We can go to exterior doors. We can go to screen doors and pick one and then just drop that in and it'll place it there. So now if that screen door isn't exactly the same finish as the others, something you're going to see me use a lot is the surface copy paste. You click on a surface that you'll want the other item to match, and then you click on that item and it'll actually apply it. So it's applied it to part of the door, and you just click on the additional pieces of the door at that point. All right, so now we're going to go back into our drawing, and I'm going to drop us into roof mode real quick. Just going to move this off the side a bit and drop us into roof mode. And we're going to trace a roof over this. What happened? I don't know. It's finding something it shouldn't be finding right now. I'm just going to adjust these reference points. They're finding something that they shouldn't be finding. We're going to get it back to where it belongs. There. Now they're finding the posts or finding the beams. They were finding the posts in error and setting it down low. So that will get us back where we want to be. The other piece to this this area was that we actually drew some posts or some beams out the back there. So if you ever do want to do that, you simply come in here and you can go to draw a beam. And I think I'm going to put in a 6x8 wood beam. And if I zoom that area up, I just connect to here, across the back to here. And then of course you can align those as you wish. And when I'm back in roof mode now, I would be able to just pick that reference point up and drag it back to that point. And that'll extend the roof beyond. So this is a cooking area back here with an extended roof. And then in this area, this has a screened in area. So the floor is screened and the walls are screened, and then the top gables would be screened off as well. So next thing you can do, if you wanted to add a little bit to this, you can drop in a truss set, and just for aesthetics purposes, if nothing else. Sorry, I didn't have that fully on the screen when I did it. So I'm just going to pull it a little longer. And if we go back into 3D, we may be able to see that one. That's still not projecting out. So we come back into here. Now, if you ever want to move or adjust the thickness of them, here again, I can right click, I can go into the roof truss, and I can explode those items. Right now it's a truss set so that they all move as one, but if I want them individual, then I can explode that. I can pick up one of these trusses, I can move it out in front. I can also edit that one truss, and I can edit to be say 3 inches thick, so it's a little more of a timber looking truss, a decorative piece on the front. And when I go back to 3D, we will see that projecting through on the front. Okay, so that's one way you can get that. Now, what's missing on this drawing is some railings. We're a little bit high on this end over here, so I'm going to take a quick look at some different features we can add to this. And if we have time, I'll show you how you can drop in like a shade structure at the other end if we have time. But for now, what we're going to drop in here is a railing across that front part. So we're going to go to drawing, and we're going to put some railings around here as well. In reality, there's a stair coming down here, but we don't need to draw that today. We're just going to draw the stair between the railing between here, and we have a stair off the front. So to do that, we're going to go back to deck again, and this time go to railing. And I've created a railing definition with black spindles. It's basically your standard railing with round spindles, and I've just changed them to black anodized, but that's all. That's the only thing that's really different about it. So you just drag across the front. The railings are much like any of the other deck entities. They are smart enough to try and align properly. So when we go back into our 3D, you will see the railings already there. And if you come in here, you can go into rail, you can go into edit, you can go into your mid posts. And in this case, because I've drawn it as one long stretch, I can come in here and I can change the number of mid posts to say 3, and it automatically adds those in across the front. Might be a little bit hard to see with just the lighting there, so I'll move that down so you can see them. All right, so you can also go into your end posts. There's all kinds of different features in here. You can change the heights of the railings, change the heights of the end posts, and so on as well. If you're on a stair, much like in the interior stairs, you edit the stair and you can add your railings directly to them. Here's where the definitions are, so you can see that we have deck, porch, and stair railings, and these are all just predefined with different panels and so on throughout. Okay, I don't want to change that necessarily on here. Now at the other end of this deck, I'm just going to zoom us up here. Let's take a second. I'm just going to grab one of the posts that we've already drawn just to save us a little bit of time. So I'm going to right click on that post, and I'm going to do a draw select, and I'm going to move down to here, and I'm going to drop that one in. Okay, and I'm not going to be super accurate with this because we are running a little bit tight on time, but I want to just show you how you can utilize this and some beams and some joists to create a different feature on your deck. Sorry, that didn't totally drawn in yet. There we go. There it is. So I'm going to go to move. I'm just going to move that in a little bit. So right now it's finding the outer lip of the deck. And you drop that there. We can then go to our move and copy. I'm just going to copy that across to say here. And then we're going to pick OK. And I'm going to do a copy block and pick those up. And we'll just drop them back over here. Okay. And then what you can do is you can draw in a beam. So if let's say we do 6x10 wood beam, and I pick OK, and I just drop that across here, like so. And I do another copy of that. So I do a move copy, and I copy that across to here. Obviously, you can be a little more accurate with your snap modes, and you can dimension these into place as you wish. I'm just going to pick one of those, and I'm going to edit those. So I'm going to edit the beam. Notice I edit the beam first, and I'm going to go to the common. Actually, I'm going to go back to beam, and I'm going to set the top of the beam at, say, 9 feet, and pick OK. I'm going to repeat that change to this one. Make sure they're both the same. And when we're in our 3D, we should be able to slide over there. So I'm just going to slide us. I have a lot of trees, sorry. There we are, we're through the trees. All right, so just gonna move us up a little bit. So now you can see we've got the beams there, and we can edit those beams, and we can change the ends to a profile. You can define your own profiles as you wish, and make that same change over here. And then if you wanted to change your posts so that they don't notch into it, you can obviously edit the posts and use the adjust height to fit to beam if that's what you wish. Okay, it's not that important, but you can do that. And then when we're back on our actual drawing, we can go back up here to our draw commands, go to deck, go to deck components this time, and let's just pick joists, and we'll pick OK. And I'm going to span them across here. So I'm hanging out a bit farther than I probably should be on that side, but that's all right today. Okay, I'm going to edit those. And I believe that we set the top of the others to 9 feet, top of the beams to 9 feet. So I'm going to turn off the joist hangers, don't need those. Then I can change my offset to say 8 foot 6 inches so that they're up and they'll notch into the beam. And when we take a look at these now, the end styles, I'm going to put a profile on those as well and pick OK. And you can see that when we look at our 3D, we have them notched into those beams, and we can also we can also explode that joist set and draw in another one if we wanted to. So I can go to joist set and explode, and then I can copy that one. So I can go to do a move, copy, and then pick up one of these and move it to the end where I want it. Pick OK, and back in 3D, that will finish that off for you. So a little on the small side, but yes, you can move that back. You can drop a hot tub, what have you, into that space, and that's a quick and easy way to generate a simple effect in that regard. So the only other thing that I might like to draw into this area is a deck bench, and I'm going to quickly take you through and just show you how the parting boards also work, so you can see how those can be added quite easily. So under deck, we have the deck bench. It draws much like the stairs did. Actually, I'm going to do this in the drawing just for clarity, make it a lot easier. And the deck bench is just simply snap from the side to where you want it to go, to the side you want it to draw, and then continue drawing beyond that. And then it goes in. That'll automatically find the top of the deck and drop it in for you at that point. Okay. There again, if any of the finishes aren't exactly what you want, they're easily modified. And here again, if we wanted to make this bigger, as it looks kind of silly the size it is, just a move block, pick up this stuff, move it up, and then you can adjust those items there. If it was still a joist set, obviously it'd be a lot easier. I could also drop in a line across there. So if I wanted to go to draw, shape, line, drop a line across there, and then I should be able to go to my tools and use the extend command. And if I click on the line and then I click on the joist, they will extend to that, which is a nice, easy way to get them there. Okay, and then you can erase that out. And let's take a look at our 3D again. So that makes it a little bit bigger and a little better. And you can extend your bench as you need to as well. So lastly, as we wrap up, we're at the full hour now. Sorry for taking a little bit long. Just to show you what the parting boards can do. When you're in draw and deck and you're using your parting boards, this is a good time for you to utilize the snap commands So I can snap directly to the front of the building and perpendicular to this, and that'll drop it in for me at that point. And likewise, when I'm using the parting board, I might want to use the deck edge, in which case I'm just going to click on the edges from that point on. And when we take a look at those in 3D, we can come in here. Not that obvious when you're looking at them here, but you can kind of see it where the transitions are at that point. And that would allow you to then differentiate this decking edge, this decking board from this one. And you can then edit the different textures, which is something I wanted to take you into here real quick. You'll notice that we also have all the Trex colors in here. So if you come into the manufacturers, you should see, I believe it's a SoftPlan Plus feature though. So if you are a SoftPlan Plus subscriber, you will find the Trex colors in here, in which case you can come in here and expand those, and you can pick different finishes right from there, which will match up with the Trex colors to give them a better representation of what they're actually going to achieve at that point. All right, so I'm going to move us back up here. Now, if you want to put a different finish on here as well, if I edit that gable end, right now it's using siding A. If I have siding B defined with, say, cedar shakes, it'll show up there. Likewise, if I didn't want the stone on these ends, I can do a surface copy paste, click on that, and then click down there, and that'll change that over really quickly for the customer to finish that off. Now, to finish off your actual drawing, so your customer, gets a better idea of the spatial aspects of it. At some point, I erased my railing out on this. I apologize for that. But you can go to your draw, and under symbol, we've newly added a bunch of Wayfair patio components in. So if you come in here and you look way to the bottom, Wayfair, we've got some patio dining sets that are quite nice, and you can drop those on. They're not small. They are fairly intricate, involved symbols, but there's some nice looking stuff there. All right, just gonna take you back just to show you what it could look like when it's all done. What I've done here is I ran something last week on a similar set of drawings. And in this case, I did a path trace. So this is a fairly grainy looking one. But if I was to go to File, Open, and I'm just going to go all Files, and I've let it go through 1,000 passes, which means it's bouncing the light around 1,000 times. You can see if we were zoomed in, you'd see a much bigger difference in the clarity of the actual symbols when they're all done. So this gives you an idea of what it can look like when you're all done. Obviously, you can put some more site components in to put gravel underneath here, that kind of thing. I've just got grass running in there right now with a lot of billboard trees in the background to replicate the forest in the background and not show the edge of the world as we're approaching it. So this gives you an idea of what you can achieve using the ray trace and path trace options within the ray trace mode to achieve a good looking 3D when you're all done. That the customer will get a better representation of what they're purchasing. All right. So anyway, we got through a lot of information today. I hope that you found it very useful, and I thank you very much for joining me today. I know there's a lot of people couldn't make it that signed up just because it is a Friday in the middle of the summer. So I thank you for taking the time to join me today, and I hope that it was a good session for you. And I'll stay on the line just for a few minutes to answer a few questions if you like. Otherwise, thanks again and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I look forward to seeing you again in either a training session or in a Friday Fundamentals to come in the fall. All right, thanks guys.